Get down here, Merc.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. I have completed my playthrough of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Those of you who have watched it, thank you very much for doing so. Those of you who haven't, I mean, if you got some time to kill, go for it. Sorry if you hear any weird sounds. I've got two fans going in my room where I'm recording, and my computer's very loud. I can't do anything about it. Okay, it's hot in here, so here we go. So Final Fantasy VII Remake, that was an experience. I won't be talking about additions to the game in this video, such as the Coliseum, new side missions, Chadley, things of that nature. Mainly because they do not change the game in any way. They just add to the fullness of the game. What I am going to be talking about are things that deviated somewhat and a lot from the original game, and my thoughts on them. I'm also going to cover a bit of the ending of the game, to the best of my memory, because Sony or Squaresoft, nope, Square Enix, I meant to say, I guess decided they didn't want the ending spoiled and blocked me from being able to actually record my screen when I was playing the end of the game. Actually, in fact, the entire Chapter 18 is blocked from recording on the PlayStation. So I'll recount some of the stuff that happened in that part of the game, again, to the best of my memory. Yeah, let's get this show on the road. So one of the first things I'm going to mention is Avalanche. Avalanche in this game seems to be a major organization versus the ragtag group of misfits from the original FF7. It's not a bad thing or anything like that. It's just a slight departure from the original game. Really not a big deal. Yeah, not really. Next thought, the bomb run. So that was fun. It was also something that everybody could play as a demo leading up to the release of the game. In the original game, Avalanche was successful with the Mako reactor bombing. In the remake, however, the bomb actually fails to go off, and President Shinra, who's actually watching everything happening, orders the destruction of the reactor. This was done to make Avalanche look like the bad guys in this situation. On the surface, it's not really a major change. The final outcome is the same. The reactor blows up, and everyone blames Avalanche. But it does, however, also make things different, in a major way. A player in 1997 had to live with the consequences of Avalanche's actions. Yes, you were playing a good guy, and their fight is a just one, but the bomb hurt and killed people. They were terrorists. In the remake, yes, you're still a terrorist fighting for a just cause, but the bomb fails. Shinra was responsible. Sure, the characters don't know this, but the player does. The player is not having to live with that fact, and I feel like it takes something away from the game. At the same time, it does create something new. It paints President Shinra in an even darker light than the original, which is great, because President Shinra is a sick and crazy bastard. Now let's talk about the Whispers. These guys show up early in the game. The Whispers are a new entity in the game that supposedly work to keep fate and destiny in line with whatever master plan is in place for all life. Red 13 later in the game refers to them as arbiters of fate. They pop in now and then whenever the game seems to try something different from the original FF7. Sometimes they interfere as friends, and sometimes as foes. Their presence worries me a bit. a little more on that when we talk about the ending. Let's talk about Sector 7. A lot more people survive Sector 7 plate drop than you get a sense of in the original. Not a horrible person. I'm happy a lot of people survived, but in the original, at least, to the best of my recollection, very little people survived. Again, this change kind of affects how you feel about the situation. Your actions, however indirect, cost thousands their lives. But in the remake, a lot more people manage to survive, and that's good. But your actions don't weigh on you as much as they did before. At least that's how I feel about it. Not mad or anything. Still works. It's just different. While we're on the topic of Sector 7, in this game, you can actually revisit it. That's right. In the remake, you can actually get back into Sector 7 after the plate drop. I don't like this change in a functional, practical way. What I mean is, in the original, the plate above Sector 7, which was as large as Sector 7 itself, or the slums, had buildings and houses, roads and infrastructure. It all fell onto Sector 7 slums, crushing it and burying the slums. In the remake, the same happens. However, there are portions of the Sector 7 slums that are still traversable. Some houses and structures are more or less still in place. It just feels unbelievable to me. In the original, like, that was it. The entrance to Sector 7 is no longer usable. You see all the debris blocking the way. You can't get back in. Everything is destroyed. While there, we come across one of Wedge's cats. Yes, in this version, Wedge has cats, and he loves them very much. Wedge's cat leads the group to Wedge's house, where there's a hole in the ground, leading to an underground Shinra facility. So this is obviously different from the original, and that's fine. What happens next is an issue, though. The cat leads them to the hole, thinking that Wedge may have survived and ended up down there, which is a crazy notion because Wedge dies in the original game during the defense of the pillar. Anyway, you go down into the facility and you eventually come across an unconscious Wedge. So Wedge lives, which is total BS. This is the kind of change I did not want to see in this game. Don't get me wrong, I love Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse. Even though you don't get to know them that well in the original, they were likable, and it was sad that they all died. Wedge died in the game. Now he is alive, and the feeling is different. I feel like it cheapens the experience and tarnishes the integrity of the original. I promised myself I wasn't going to do this, but here we go. Warning. Aerith rant. Potential spoilers for Final Fantasy VII, the original. While I'm talking about this whole thing regarding Wedge dying and then not dying in this remake and how it cheapens things, I just have to talk about Aerith's eventual death in the original game. Just to paint the picture here on how strongly I feel about this, I love Aerith. When I played the original game, not knowing what was about to happen, when we caught up to Aerith at the City of the Ancients, it destroyed me. It wrecked me. I'm telling you right now, no bullshit, that moment made it the first game I ever cried over. If you liked her as much as I did, then you understand when I say that her death changed the entire game for you. It was no longer just fun and games. It was fucking personal. You wanted Sephiroth. You wanted to run him through and destroy him. Your motivations changed. You wanted retribution. But even though I love Aerith and her death was horrible, I would not change that. I do not want Aerith to survive in the remake because her death made that game what it was and is, and that should not be fucked with. Okay. Rant over. So back to Wedge. Even though Wedge is a minor character and his death did not affect me the same way Aerith's did, it's still something that happened and sucked and you wanted revenge for. Heck, I would say even more so in the remake, since Square decided to give us more backstory and substance to these characters, Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse. They are now even more likable, especially Jessie. You get a whole backstory on her. Wedge's retcon survival is actually short-lived. Near the end of the game, while trying to help Cloud and the gang escape Shinra HQ, the Whispers surround him and pull him to the elevator behind him, and they engulf him. It's not said, but it is implied that Wedge dies here, and probably by being thrown out of the elevator to drop to his death, as he died in the original game, falling off the pillar. The Whispers are correcting this error in the flow of destiny. So he survives only to die later in the game. Okay, great. I can live with that. So why did I rant the way I did? Well, keep watching. I will cover that when we talk about the ending of the game. Okay, what's next? Let's talk about Sephiroth. It's funny, as much as I hate the guy, he's a pretty awesome villain. That's for damn sure. No Kefka, but still pretty bad. Anyways, to the delight of many, Sephiroth makes a lot of appearances in this game, most of which are pretty good additions to the original Final Fantasy VII storyline. But of course, there are some differences and downright confusion with some. Cloud and gang, while trying to reach the top of Shinra HQ, come across Sephiroth in the Genova room, before he had successfully removed Genova. In the original version of the game, you get captured and put into holding cells after you save Aerith and release Red 13. After you escape, you are met with creepy music and a blood trail that leads you to President Shinra's office. In the remake, you don't get captured. You continue on, encounter Sephiroth as I mentioned before, get separated from the group, eventually meet up again, run through some Hojo hoops, and eventually get back to where you found Sephiroth in Genova. What you find is a glowing bloodstain. So anyway, you follow it all the way to President Shinra's office, where you find nothing. Yep, that's right. In the original, you find a dead President Shinra slumped over his desk with Sephiroth's sword sticking out of his back. In the remake, you hear someone squirming, and when you step outside, you find President Shinra alive and well, hanging off the side of the building, pleading for his life. Sephiroth eventually kills him, so yay. Not a drastic change in his death, but it is an obvious difference, especially the lead up to it all. Also, Sephiroth impales Barrett, leaving him for dead, something that did not happen in the original. But it's okay. Once Sephiroth bounces, you see a Whisper come out of the wound and protect Destiny by not letting Barrett die. There is some more Sephiroth to talk about, but I'm kind of going in chronological order, so we'll get back to Sephiroth in a bit. Alright, now let's talk about escaping Shinra HQ. Nothing here really changed, but the game blocked me from live streaming the final chapter, so I'm going to recount it. Cloud and gang escape the building, just like in the original, on motorcycle and ridiculously small car, while being chased by Shinra. As in the original game, you need to fend them off until you get to the end of the road, and fight a mech boss. Can't remember the name of the dude right now. In the remake, that is all the same, but instead of fighting the boss on your feet, you are fighting him from your vehicles instead. Once the boss is defeated, you get to the end of the highway, where the road stops and overlooks the rest of the world. This is where the Midgar portion of the original game ends, and then you leave the city and go on your quest to find Sephiroth and stop him. Can you guess if the same can be said for the remake? Anyone? They keep it the same. No. No, that's a lie. It's different. Really different. Sephiroth appears. The Whispers are now surrounding them and all of Midgar. Things are going crazy. Probably since this never happened before. Sephiroth says some stuff I don't remember, and then opens a portal to somewhere. It is very unstable, and Aerith stabilizes it with her magic. She wants to go after him, and everyone agrees, and so they walk in. What's on the other side? Midgar. Only everything is all wonky. Structures are falling apart, Whispers are everywhere, including a massive Whisper in the distance. The leader of the Whispers, maybe, perhaps fate itself. Whatever it is, it's after you, sending strong whispers of fire, ice, and thunder to stop you. You fight these whispers many times as you traverse the landscape. Each defeated one brings down the life bar of the big boss thing in the distance. Eventually you beat it, and then Sephiroth arrives, and you have a big bad boss fight against Sephiroth. I won't go into too many details, but you start off fighting him with just Cloud, then your allies slowly start coming back. After you defeat him, Cloud finds himself at the edge of creation with Sephiroth, kind of mirroring the final scene with Cloud and Sephiroth from the original game, where you wreck him with Omni Slash. Only no Omni Slash, and Sephiroth wins. I can't get into too many details, simply because I cannot remember them, since I was not allowed to record. I can't go back and rewatch, and so instead of recalling things incorrectly, I'll just leave it at that. Now, after all that, we are greeted with an ending video, and we see that Biggs is alive. Somehow Biggs is alive. Biggs is in a bed recovering. Biggs is fucking alive now. See, that is why I went on my Wedge rant earlier. Apparently, he survived having the Sector 7 plate fall on him, because that's where you left him. You left him on the plate because he died while talking to you, and then the plate dropped. So what are the implications here? We literally fought fate and won, and there are no more whispers, nothing controlling fate. Does that mean anything can happen? I really don't know. I'll touch more on this on my final thoughts, but what else? Next, we see a very familiar scene of a bunch of dead Shinra soldiers and a pair of soldier boots. The camera pans up, and it's not Cloud. It's Zack. Apparently Zack survives that no-win scenario. Is this what it seems? I mean, if this is the case, then that changes a lot for Cloud and his story, and Aerith too. Personally, I think Zack does still die. Maybe he succumbs to his wounds moments later when he goes to pick up Cloud. Yeah, that better be the damn case. But who knows? A lot of people online are saying that, oh no, this is an alternate reality and he lives in this. I don't know. Time will tell, I guess. We'll have to wait until the other parts of the game come out. But supposedly Zack may have survived his original death. So that's all the changes that popped up in the ending there that was worth mentioning. Let's go over my final thoughts here. Clearly, I'm a Final Fantasy VII fanboy. Very excited. But yeah, simply put, FF7 Remake is a fucking masterpiece. There was not a single point in that game where anything was dull. It looks amazing, it plays amazing, and it is amazing. They expand on so much more and make Midgar come alive. You learn more about the people around you, especially Jessie, which makes her death even harder to accept. Like, a lot. Anyone who was worried that making the Midgar portion of the game into its own game would be boring and full of stupid filler stuff, worry not. It is good. About 40 hours of good, and counting. I'm replaying it and getting some more trophies and just having fun with it. If things continue like this, then I look forward to the next one. But here's the thing. I am worried for the next one. When I wanted a remake, all I wanted was the same game, but with the best graphics. What they said they would give us was the same game, with the best graphics, with certain things expanded on, and some new things introduced. What we got was exactly that, but also with some story changes. Some of them major. But then you introduce these whispers, and they are supposed to be keeping Fate and Destiny on a custom-made course. But we fought and defeated the whispers. These arbiters of fate. Maybe no more. And if that is the case, part 2 of this game, this remake, will most likely unfold in a way that is alien to the original game, and I don't want that. I did not wait 19 years for this remake, only to have it turn into something unrecognizable. I really hope they don't drop the ball here. FF7 was an amazing game, and the remake is on course to being an amazing game as well. But it needs to honor the original story, and it can't drastically change too much. Freely traveling the world, fighting the weapons, Golden Saucer, Wutai, Temple of the Ancients, the death of Aerith, going into space, the summoning of Meteor, the final fight with Sephiroth in the Northern Crater. These things all need to happen in the upcoming game, or games. Otherwise, it's not the same. It loses its essence and will become like any other remade, rebooted piece of crap IP that is out there now. So, in conclusion, I love this remake. 10 out of 10, hands down. But I fear what the sequel or sequels may bring us. Those are my thoughts. That's what I caught as being different from the original. Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of the remake. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching my video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, you can give it a thumbs down. If you're not already subscribed to my content, please do so, and don't forget to click the bell notification icon so that you'll be notified when I upload new stuff. And feel free to check out my other videos. And if you haven't watched my remake playthroughs, do that. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. See you all next time.